Hola y un saludo a todos los estudiantes que están en la clase de Español 111. Soy el profesor Antón García Fernández. As you are no doubt aware, in-person classes have been canceled at the university for the remainder of the semester. So this video is part of the plan to turn classes that are in-person classes into online classes. And today we're going to be talking about two main things. First of all, we're going to talk about the a personal, or the personal a. The a personal has a lot to do with the direct object. So what is a direct object? A direct object, in grammatical terms, is the person or the thing or the place that receives the action of the subject. So for example, if I say, I read a book, the book is the thing that I am reading, and so it's the direct object. If I say, for example, I visit my parents are the direct object because they are the people that receive that visit. So that, in short, is the direct object in any sentence in grammatical terms. Now, in Spanish, when the direct object is a thing or a place, we don't use the preposition a. So, for example, I can say, yo visito Nashville. Or I could say, for example, mi esposa y yo vemos una película. Nashville is the direct object, but it is a place, so we don't use the preposition a. Yo visito Nashville. Una película is a thing. So again, being the direct object and being a thing, we don't use the preposition a. Mi esposa y yo vemos una película. But when the direct object in a sentence is a person or a group of people, then we will use, in general, the personal a, la a personal. Por ejemplo, visito a mis padres. My parents, mis padres, are the direct object in that case, and because they are people, we use the preposition a. Visito a mis padres. I can say, for example, as well, el profesor ve a los estudiantes. El profesor ve a los estudiantes. He sees the students. So the students, los estudiantes, is the direct object, and los estudiantes is a group of people, and therefore you need to use the personal a, the preposition a. El profesor ve a los estudiantes. So if the direct object is a place or a thing, we don't use the personal a. But if the direct object is a person or a group of people, then we do use the personal a. Now, another thing that we need to talk about in this video, and by the way, the information about this you can find in the book that we use for the class, which is right here, Arriba, the 7th edition. You can find this information on pages 119 and 120, páginas 119 y 120. Something else related to the direct object is the fact that it is possible in Spanish to substitute any direct object with a pronoun. And the pronouns that we can use to substitute the direct object in Spanish are the direct object pronouns, los pronombres de objeto directo, lo, la, los, y las. And you will use one or the other depending on whether the direct object is masculine, feminine, singular, or plural. So let's look at some examples. For example, if you say, and I have it written here, let me give you some examples here. If I say, for example, leo el libro, the direct object there is el libro. So instead of saying leo el libro, we could substitute that direct object with the direct object pronoun lo, because it's masculine and because it's singular. And so we could say lo leo. As you can see, the sentence is a lot shorter in this case. Another example would be escucho música. The direct object there is música because it's the thing that I listen to. And as you can see, it is feminine and it is singular, so you could simply say la escucho. La escucho. Again, it's a lot shorter. Now, one thing that is important to remember is that in a sentence like that, the direct object, when it becomes the pronoun lo, la, los, or las, goes right before the verb and not after the verb, as it would be in English. So I'll repeat that. The direct object pronouns lo, la, los, y las go right before the verb and not after, as is the case in English. Some examples of this would be bebo un café. Un café is the direct object. It's masculine. It's singular. So I could simply say lo bebo. Lo bebo. Another example would be escribo una carta. Una carta is the direct object. It's feminine and it's singular. So I could simply say la escribo. La escribo. Another example. Cocino los espaguetis. Los espaguetis is masculine and plural. So in that case, that direct object could be substituted with the pronoun los, and I could simply say los cocino. Los cocino. Yet one more example. Leo unas novelas. The direct object would be unas novelas. It's feminine and it's plural, so we need the direct object pronoun las. I could say las leo. Las leo. So in each case, as you can see, the sentence is a lot shorter. Not only that, but the pronoun goes before the verb. It goes right before the verb. That is the case because in those sentences we only have one verb. Por ejemplo, bebo un café. The only verb there would be bebo, I drink. And so for that reason, we can put, or we have to put, the pronoun for the direct object right before the verb because there's only one verb in the sentence. But what would happen if we had more than one verb in the sentence? What would happen if we had, for example, two verbs in the sentence? Which, it can happen if we use, for example, the expression ir a plus the infinitive, which in another video we looked at, which is the expression we use to talk about plans, to talk about the near future. Let me give you an example here from the whiteboard that I have here. We have the sentence voy a leer los libros. Now the direct object there would be los libros because that is the thing that you are going to read. Voy a leer los libros. Now in that case we have two verbs. The first verb is voy. The second verb is leer. The first verb, voy, is the one that is conjugated, the verb ir. The second verb, leer, is the one that is not conjugated, it's the infinitive. But we have two verbs. And because we have two verbs, we have two possibilities. We could put the pronoun los, which corresponds to los libros, the direct object. We could put it right before the first verb, right before the conjugated verb, voy. And in that case, you would say, los voy a leer. Los voy a leer. Because we have two verbs, though, we have the option number 2 that you see underneath there. You could attach the pronoun los for los libros to the infinitive, and you can put it after the infinitive, but attached to it. It becomes part of the infinitive. It becomes part of the same word. Voy a leerlos. Voy a leerlos. Now, why do you have two options? Because you have two verbs. The sentences that you see on top, leo el libro, there's only one verb, leo. So you can only put the pronoun, the direct object pronoun, right before that verb. Lo leo. Escucho música. Again, we only have one verb, escucho. So you have to put the pronoun, the direct object pronoun la, right before that single verb. La escucho. Look at the difference here on the whiteboard. Sentences at the top, only one verb. Sentence at the bottom, two verbs. This is very important to remember, and it is important to remember that you can simply say voy a leerlo, or you could say lo voy a leer, and it is your choice. It means exactly the same, and it doesn't have anything to do with formal or informal. It's simply your choice at any given point. The reason being that in that sentence you have two verbs. But if you only have one verb, you can only put the direct object pronoun right before that verb. So now I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and you will have to answer those questions, yes or no. But in the answer, you need to use the direct object pronouns. Lo, la, los, o las. So let's start with the first one. ¿Lees las novelas? ¿Lees las novelas? The answer could be sí, las leo. Sí, las leo. Or no, no las leo. No, no las leo. Las is the pronoun that we use because las novelas is the direct object and las novelas is feminine and is plural. Now, I'm going to ask you 3 questions and I'm going to give you some time to answer those questions. In this case, please use yes as the answer in all cases. Número 1. ¿Lees los libros? ¿Lees los libros? And the answer would be sí, los leo. Sí, los leo. Question number 2. ¿Estudias las matemáticas? ¿Estudias las matemáticas? And the answer would be sí, las estudio. Sí, las estudio. Now question number 3. ¿Vas a ver la película? ¿Vas a ver la película? Note that in this case you have 2 verbs, vas and ver. ¿Vas a ver la película? Because you have 2 verbs, you would have 2 options to answer the question. The first one would be sí, la voy a ver. You put la for la película, which is the direct object, right before the first verb. Sí, la voy a ver. Or you have another option. You could say sí, voy a verla. You put la right after, and in this case attached to the infinitive ver. Sí, voy a verla. Sí, voy a verla. I will finish by reminding you that with the direct object pronouns lo, la, los, y las, you have only one option when you have only one verb in the sentence, and you have 2 options when you have 2 verbs in the sentence. So, in the case of one verb, you have to put the pronoun right before the verb, not after, right before the verb. I repeat it, right before the verb. If you have 2 verbs, then you can put it right before the first verb, or you can attach it to the second verb, which in the examples that I have given is en infinitive. Muchas gracias por la atención. Se despide por ahora el profesor Antón García Fernández.